What's up guys, it's Ryantium here, and today we are back once again in Stellaris Console Edition with Distant Stars. Thank you to Paradox Interactive for sponsoring today's video by giving me a pre-release version of Distant Stars to go ahead and film this on. Very much appreciate that. So, Distant Stars is the first DLC in the expansion Pass 3. Now, Distant Stars is one of the more obscure DLCs that we have here on Stellaris. It's definitely a very story-oriented, based on what it brings. Now, I'm going to read you the description based off of what is on the wiki, and then we're going to get into a few of the different parts here within Distant Stars, because there's some pretty juicy stuff to get into in this story pack. So, as it reads on the wiki, behind closed doors, discover hidden traces of an ancient gateway network, unlocking a sealed path to a constellation outside our own galaxy. But is this door holding something out, or keeping something in? So ominous. The sensors are picking up, that can't be right. Encounter dozens of new anomalies and events for your intrepid scientists to observe and analyze, and a galaxy of wonders for them to discover. And let me tell you, there are a ton of new anomalies. Brave new worlds. Plot unexplored unique solar systems, each with their own story to tell. Gain technology, resources, and valuable worlds to colonize. And there's some pretty good ones in there. And last but not least, there's always a bigger fish. Come face to face with a number of unique, gargantuan creatures that exist and thrive in the vacuum of space, but approach with caution. Because whether gentle giants or something more sinister, these legendary behemoths have existed long before you, and will do what it takes to survive long after. It also adds some new types of stars and a reworked anomaly system, which basically just brings out a whole bunch of new anomalies and is so much more to explore. So, when it comes to Distant Stars, we're here with the Order of L. We are the Languins is what our name is. We are just penguins with an L, and we worship the L Gate and the L Cluster and everything like that. We're here in the year 2209, and not a whole lot has happened. We've got 4 measly worlds, and we're beginning to expand. But our main goal within this game was to discover the L Gates and to find the secrets that lay in wait there. So we're going to be jumping through time here very, very soon, showing you exactly how this empire has evolved and how early we've unlocked the L-Gate and the secrets that we found within. But not only are we going to be going over the L-Gate, we're going to be talking about the enigmatic cache and the different Leviathans that are within the game. So buckle up and get ready to see some cool stuff. Now, before we get into the L-Gate, we're going to solve one of the more mysterious parts of Distant Stars, and that is this bad boy right here, the enigmatic cache. Now, it counts as a Leviathan class kind of ship, and it's basically just a floating cylinder in space that you can see all the way through. Now, this thing is bizarre. It is by far one of the weirder Leviathans in the game. You cannot kill it, as far as I know. If you do try to kill it, it will just bounce across the galaxy through all sorts of different places, and you never actually are able to kill it. However, the enigmatic cache has quite a few different things that go along with it. So, for instance, this enigmatic cache will eventually park itself right above a planet, and it will begin to study, and you will have a pop up on your screen with a message that reads. Now, you can either choose to ignore this thing and just let it go about its business, or you can go into the mission and you can actually do the mission. And there are a number of outcomes that can happen with this mission. However, I'm going to show you what happened with my mission. So here you can see the enigmatic cache is floating above Eltopia, our home planet here, and we've only got 1 month until the ending of this event. Now, the enigmatic guest also buffs your planet, as you can see right here in the summary section in the planet modifiers. As long as the enigmatic cache remains in orbit, our scientists will have ample opportunity for research, giving you a whopping 30% research from all of your fields. Now, this is a kind of lackluster outcome of my enigmatic cache mission, and what this does is it provides me with a 250 stored research for engineering. So, not really the best one that you can get. There are a few, like I said, a few other ways that the enigmatic cache mission can go. However, this mysterious cylinder may not ever have its secrets cracked. I have really only ever gotten this one thing from it, is the 250 engineering research. However, I think it's pretty cool to have this very mysterious and ominous-looking cylinder floating above your home planet. But without further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes of distant stars, which is the L cluster. So here we are in the year 2230 after an exciting discovery in the Sithonus Maelstrom. As you can see here on the screen, you have a new symbol for a regular gateway and an L gate. So in this system over here, we have a regular gateway. This is one that we've all come across, and it's the disabled gateway, and it doesn't have anything inside of it. However, in the Sithonus Maelstrom, this one appears to be on. So this Sithonus Maelstrom is home to the L gate. It's not going to always be in the Sithonus Maelstrom. There will be one in pretty much any black hole system. There's a chance to have it spawn in a black hole system. I've not found an L gate in any other system but a black hole. However, the Sithonus Maelstrom has been claimed by the empire that I made first contact with. So we eventually go to war to win the L gate over. However, we don't have anything in right here because we haven't technically discovered the L gate. Once we make first contact, though, you will get a pop-up that says the L gate. Or when you jump into a system with an L gate, you will get a pop-up, and it will say this gateway is a little bit strange. There seems to be some, energy emanating from it, and it would be good for us to discover and explore things further. Now, let's go and jump into the future where we own the L gate, and we're beginning our research. So here we are in the year 2248, and we currently own the Sithonus Maelstrom. Now, in order to understand the L cluster, you have to find what's known as L gate insights, and that is engineering research that pops up in your engineering tree. So if we go ahead and come through here and we take a look at what we've gone ahead and researched, we should be able to find the L gate insights are going to be in the engineering section. There are 7 in total, but I only ended up having to research 3 because there are some anomalies within the galaxy with distant stars that will give you L gate insights. For instance, one of the events gives you a ticking clock, and it says there are 42 years and 3 days left until something happens. When that event ticked over, and it had been 42 years and 3 days, it gave me an L gate insight, but also provided me with an L gate nanite cluster ship. So this is the nanite ship that I received from that, and it's a really cool event that can happen within distant stars that can kind of give you a little bit of spice, This was one of the better ways to have that one go through, that mission to go through, and that anomaly to happen. So you won't always get this one. In fact, I think this is one of the rarer ones. However, still pretty cool to have some options. But if you get yourself a nanite ship, it's pretty powerful. It's a cruiser class ship, and it's got some pretty cool stuff in it. But having a cruiser like this in the year 2248 with tier 5 stuff and special strike craft and different weapons, pretty cool to have. However, back over here, once you have all of the L cluster insights, you gain the option to then research it. And that research option can now be found in physics. So the L gate activation special project pops up in your physics section to be researched. It takes a decent bit, but it depends on the amount of physics research that you have. But once that is done, you will be tasked with the special project, the L gate activation. Now, the L gate activation, I believe, can take about 180 days, and all it requires is a science ship. But you had better be ready for the worst outcome within the L cluster, which is what I'm about to show you. So as you can see here, our science ship is meticulously studying the L gate, and we can see in here, we have the Activate L gate research. There are only 30 days left. We'll go ahead and start the timer right now. We'll go ahead and pump that up to ×3 speed. Once this ship is in here doing this project, when it ticks over, you'd better be ready for what comes out in the other end. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, we got the Great Tempest. So the Great Tempest is one of the 5 capabilities, or one of the 5 options that can happen in the L cluster. Now, the Great Tempest is one of the scarier ones that can happen because I opened the L gate in the year 2252, a very, very early time to open the L gate. I rushed a ton of technology, put everything pretty much on the easiest difficulty that I could, because I was just trying to get the L gate open for this video, and I had to get the Great Tempest. So when you're met with the Great Tempest, you are met with an unfortunate video feed without a picture, and you can access some fragments to understand what's going on with the Great Tempest. However, once you end your communications, all hell potentially can break loose. So now the L gate symbol has turned from red to white, meaning it is active. And if we go ahead and zoom all the way out, we can now see the extragalactic cluster that is the L cluster. Now I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is we now have access to the L cluster. The bad news is the nanites now have access to the rest of the galaxy. Who loses in this situation? Well, I'm going to show you exactly what happens with that. So, the Sithonus Maelstrom is about to become a melting pot of gigantic battles and just horrendous amounts of death. Because once the L cluster is open, if you get the Great Tempest, especially this early, you are going to be hurting quite a lot. To put this into perspective, our military fleet power is right now roughly 20,000, probably a little bit over 21,000 fleet power. One of the Great Tempest's armies and one of their fleets is 21,000. When you see what's in the terminal egress system, prepare to have many bodily functions happen at the same time. And here we are in the year 2264, and that gigantic gaping hole in my empire was left by the Tempest Shoals. Now, the Tempest Shoals, as I've said before, are these gargantuan fleets of nanite battleships, or battle cruisers, and one Titan. This is, I think, a damaged fleet. It's normally about a 21.6k fleet, 21.6k fleet power, and these Titans, they can pack a punch. They are nothing to be trifled with, and if you thought one was bad, well, I've got some bad news for you there, my friends. There's not one, there's that many, and that's only in the terminal egress system. Now, the terminal egress system is the home system, or is the home system of the L gate. There are no other L gates in the game up in the L cluster, but there are other L gates scattered throughout the galaxy. And I find that to be true because actually one of them comes through the Tunari Vortex and or another black hole somewhere out here in the black of space that I haven't found as of yet. So I have yet to be able to get up into the terminal egress system because I have lost my fleets 4 times and had to rebuild them every single time. Now you can see that everyone here is, they're a tributary under me, so we're all kind of the same color, but we're all being devoured the same way. That's why the name of my save is Being Devoured by the L cluster. However, we do get a strike of luck when we talk to and convene with the Shroud. And if we go ahead and take a look at this save right here, the Fighting Back save is what I'll go ahead and say this is called, because we are finally able to take the fight to the nanite fleets. So here we've got a psionic entity that was summoned to us because of the Shroud. And I gotta say, we rolled, RNGesus was looking out for us when we rolled this bad boy. So we're a bit more beefy, we're a bit more powerful, and we have battleship tech, but we don't have the battleships in the fleet as of yet. Now, I don't believe I'll be able to get up into the L cluster to really show you everything about this. However, I will be able to tell you what happens with the Great Tempest. So eventually, you find yourself with enough fleet power to defeat the L cluster and the Tempest Shoals that live within it. What happens then? Well, the L cluster then becomes devoid of nanites, and you are able to colonize and claim the systems in the L cluster the same way you would go ahead and take any other space by expanding with frontier outposts. However, what's really cool about the L cluster is the fact that there's only one way in and one way out. Meaning if you have, bad people in the galaxy that you don't want up there in the L cluster, you can then take the terminal egress, close borders to them, and they'll never be able to use the L cluster unless they declare war to take it from you. So keep in mind that once you come up here, you need to have a couple 100,000 fleet power, maybe 80,000 fleet power you could probably get away with. However, do you see how much fleet power is right there? Once you have the terminal egress, it's a very good idea to put a gateway and or a citadel up there with a lot of firepower that you can use to protect against, the rest of the Tempest Shoals, because each and every single one of these space systems, or these star systems out here, has the Tempest Shoals in them. It's only until you reach this central star is their home nexus. And if you thought the Tempest Shoals were bad, you got another thing coming, because there is nothing scarier, in my opinion, than what waits you in that star. And there are stations, and there are more Tempest Shoals. So that's everything that I've been able to come up with for the L cluster. It took me about, I think, a solid 3 or 4 hours to get everything put together to make sure that I had something to show as far as the L cluster goes. But we'll end off with a little bit of a discussion about the different Leviathans. So on screen now, you see the different Leviathans that come with distant stars. You have the Void Spawn, the Tianki Matriarch, and the Scavenger Bot. Now, the Scavenger Bot is a very cool one. It's just this gigantic hulking structure that roams around a field, a star field, sifting up different parts of ships and adding it to its own ramshackle, construct and everything like that. Then you have the Tianki Matriarch. It's basically the mother of all Tianki. As we've seen, the passive space whales that love to float around, they're like big squids. They're pretty cool to see and pretty cool to observe, but the Tianki Matriarch will pack a punch. She's the easiest out of the 3 new Leviathans. However, don't underestimate her. I'd say probably about 35 to 40k fleet power. You'd probably be fine. Make sure you've got, make sure you counter her properly. However, the Void Spawn. The Void Spawn is the rarest one, and in the 700 hours combined between PC and Xbox, obviously, because Xbox just got this DLC, I have never gotten the Void Spawn to spawn. The Void Spawn spawns, no pun intended, through a specific event where it will hatch from a planet. And I'm sure we've seen it on YouTube through A-Spec or Spiffing Brit or anybody like that, but I have never been able to get it to spawn in my game. However, if you do, I believe the Void Spawn is one of the most powerful Leviathans in the game because of its missiles that it can shoot. So lots of point defense, I believe lots of armor, and a lot of hull would be wonderful. So that's kind of what I have for Distant Stars. It's very difficult to narrow down all of the anomalies that you'll be coming across. In fact, I'm still to this day finding new anomalies that pop up in Distant Stars. And because of Distant Stars, there are so many more to take a look at now. So I hope everyone has enjoyed today's kind of little bit of a breakdown as to what to expect from Distant Stars. Now, as I said, that was the one event that I got in the L cluster. There are 4 other events. I don't necessarily want to spoil them for you because the Distant Stars pack is a very story-driven pack. However, I will go ahead and give you one new one that can happen. Dragons. We've all seen them with the Leviathans trailer. We most likely have seen them in Leviathans themselves, but if you haven't seen what the space dragons look like, well, you're in luck, because there's a lovely void worm right here. Now, if you think this thing is adorable, don't worry, there's going to be a whole bunch of them coming out of the L cluster if you get this event. There are L drakes, sometimes, up in the L cluster, that will then come through the L gates and swim around through space, and if they end up in your space, they are passive. You can actually tame these L drakes with science ships and add them to the ranks of your fleet. Now, I do believe there's a negative outcome that can happen with that. However, I've never actually seen what can happen with that because I've only ever gotten the ones that I can tame. So it's pretty cool to see that dragons can come out of the L cluster as if it's this, faraway jewel creating life for all of these dragons. However, have fun with the L cluster, but remember, do not open it too early, and do not open it if you're not ready, as I made the mistake of doing, because it will mess you up. So let me know if you guys are excited about Distant Stars down there in the comment section. I know I was very happy and very excited to get my hands on this, especially in the pre-release. Thank you once again to Paradox Interactive. I cannot wait to see Expansion Pass 3 with Megacorp and Lithoids, and you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be covering those as well. So if you've enjoyed the content here, make sure you drop a like, grab a sub if you will. I do Stellaris content on this channel as well as a lot of other stuff, so maybe you'll find something else that you like. But guys, until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.